Good evening, everyone.
Kavod Arav, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, thank you. Uh, mm, yeah.
Good evening, Rabbi. Bruria, you're unmuted.
Thank you.
Uh, Good evening. Yeah, looks like we're starting at Gimel. So it says here, the tour, Rabbeinu B'Shem Teshuvat HaGeonim, Kol Ilan Sheyavesh Besitva. Right, so he's talking that any tree which dries out during the winter, let's see inside the tour exactly what it says there. Yeah, so it says like this, right? V'kalu gozea v'torfea, as we said, right, that if it dries out in the winter, and then also uh, the trunk is consumed, and also the leaves are gone. I think we read this yesterday. I'll read it again. Legamre v'hadar pare, so it's like totally gone. Mishorashav, and then it comes to sprout next year from its roots. V'rachin lavor pri adama. It's going to be pri adama because that's not really called a tree. That's the thing. So he said, but the Rosh was doing like the re. Uh-huh. Okay. So what does that mean? So it says here, Ilka Chaya Omer, Rav Yitzchak Tutin Gadelim Lesneh, Kiltze Behen, Mevarchin Lahem Bo Pri Etz. Right, so apparently the Ri, who's Rav Yitzchak, same guy, he was doing Bori Pri Etz on these things, on these berries, right, which are growing in the bush. So the Rosh was doing like him, and not like what we just saw, right, in the name of the Geonim, that those things are Hadamah. Okay, that's the story there. So let's go to Shulchan Aruch and see. I'm sorry, let's go to Beit Yosef. See what we got there about this. So it says Beit Yosef, Messiah b'Tshuvat HaGeonim. Right, it continues there in the Tshuvat HaGeonim. B'Lashon Hazeh like this. Tehachi Amar Gaon, that the Gaon said like this. Tanit b'Tosefta. It says in the Tosefta, Kol shemotzi alav mikaro eseb hu. Oh, so he says if you're removing it from the root, that's called grass. It's herb. If you're taking it from the tree, right, from the wood, etzu, that's called a tree. So he says, therefore, these muze, right, some kind of a thing there, that the tree is consumed, that the wood is consumed, the gamre altogether. And then it grows, it sprouts from the root fruits. We bless on the Bari Piyadama. Ad kan shano, that's the end of it. Katuv all sham. So it says furthermore there, the mihai tamam the beratzanan be'adan hagdanag be'ashum shumi mivarchin aleu Bari Piyadama. So ad kan shano, right? So we have here some types of herbs like this that he brings here, and the blessing is going to be Bari Piyadama on them, because they fit into this category we just mentioned now. So one of them you can tell, right, is sesame. And there are other things here which are similar to that. I don't know exactly what they are, but anyway. So let's go to Shulchan Aruch. We see what we got there. So it says here like this, right? Ala Moisish Bore Piadama. On Moisish, we bless Bore Piadama. So let's see, Mishnah Berurah, if he can help us with the translation here. So he says it resembles the what do you call it? The berries, the strawberries. So why is that? Because they also apparently they grow in the bush. And it's not really a tree. So therefore the blessing is Hadama. Okay, let me just see if we can understand what this fruit is, or this herb, whatever it is. Go back to Beit Yosef for a second. Yeah, no, it doesn't really say what it is, but anyway, right. The point is that it's something which fits this category, which is that it's not really a tree. It comes back every year, a new trunk. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. So it says over here this is the Beit Yosef. So it says Katub b'shibur leleket. It says in this book, Ha'ochel mima shemotziim ilanei srak en mivarachin alehem ela shakol. So he says if you eat something which comes from a tree which bears no fruits, basically, right? A barren tree, whatever they call those things. So that's going to be shakol. Why is that? Because it's not really a fruit tree. It's not really, the purpose of this tree is not really to produce fruits or food. So therefore, whatever you can, glean out from there to eat it, if it's edible, it's gonna be shakol. So he says now he explains, right? The lo chashive the bruche borei priyaitz because it's not really prominent enough to do borei priyaitz. V'chen katuv b'tshuvat ha'gaonim. That's what it says in Tshuvat ha'gaonim. Hilkach b'nei asa afal gav the bishdan avian kepirot mevarchin la shakol. So he says he brings another here thing which I don't know what it is, but anyway, right? It's also going to be shakol because it fits this category. Shakol. The Tanya arba'a minim shebelulav. Right, Shnaim Osim Perot. Okay, so now it brings the issue of the right four species, right, for Sukkot. So he says there are two species there, and the four species. Two of them make fruits. Ushnaim enam osim perot, and two of them do not. V'chivan de'aminan hadas ve'aravav enam osim perot. And since we say right that the myrtle and the willow do not make fruits, shmamina the perot b'nei asa la pereninhu. So you see from there that the berries that grow on this fruit on this tree are not called pere, right? So we see from there, right, that asa is the myrtle. That's what it is. It's the Aramaic word for myrtle. Hadas. Okay, great. So let's go to Shulchan Aruch. It says here, Al perot shemotzin beilanes rak sheakol. Again, right? That he says anything that grows, whatever they are, berries or whatever, that grow on a barren tree, fruitless tree, right? The blessing is going to be shekel on those things. Great, that's good to know. It's like super inferior, so it goes all the way to the bottom. Okay, we got one more. So now, right, it says, Bnei Asa, Afa Gav, the Bishnan, Avian Kipirot, Enan Mivarech El Shakol. So he says, also, right, there are, on the myrtle trees, there are berries that grow. That's what he's talking about. So the thing is that those berries, even if you cook them, he says, so they're like fruits, sort of. It's going to be shakol. So why is that? Because the myrtle tree is not a fruit tree. So it falls into that category. Okay, great. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll move on. Okay, so now it looks like we're going back to ginger again. We got another ginger case over here. Let's see what we got. Mm-hmm. So it says humlata de ate mibe hindua right? So yeah, we already mentioned this before. So now, right, we're coming back to it one more time here, which is this Indian spice, right? Apparently, whatever, maybe curry. I don't know what it is exactly, but beresh perek kitzad mivrachin, right? So it says in Bet Yosef, that's the source for this. In Lamed Vav Amud Bet in Prachot, well, perek bata diyoma, and also right the last perek of Yoma, Pei Alpha Amud Bet. Rashi explains himnata Litoriv. Mhm. That's how he identifies it, Rashi. Shem fatamin besamim ketushim bedvash. Oh, uh-huh. Yeah, so apparently, right, Rashi explains it not like that. He says that we're talking about they take pounded spices and they put them inside honey. So apparently, right, that does something for them, it improves them, whatever, upgrades them. Umashma begimra shehud zangvil milukach. So now Beit Yosef explains, right, exactly what it is, he says. He says, right, it implies in the Talmud that this is a ginger. And it's like coated with the honey or something. וכבר נתבהר בסימן שקודם זה, שאל זנגוויל הרטיבתא מברך ברי פרי אדמה. So it says, we already spoke about this in this chapter, that when you have fresh ginger, blessings ברי פרי אדמה. וכאן משמע לן דמשום דמיתרא כך לא נשתנית ברכתו. So coming to teach you, right, that even though that it was, placed into these spices, it doesn't change the blessing. And so he says shakol. So why is it shakol? Because it's dried. It's not fresh. But then birkat shar devarim merkachim devash. So he says, what about the blessing for other things which are, soaked in honey, whatever, basted with honey? Katav Rabbeinu b'siman shachar. So he says the two writes this in the next chapter. Okay, that's good. So let's go to Shulchan Aruch. Let's see what we got. So yeah, so says the Shulchan Aruch like this. Al zangvil shemerakchim oto keshehu ratuv. Right. So what happens is like this, right? You have ginger, and what they do is, they right add, like add all kinds of spices to it, like to give it a certain kind of a taste, whatever. So if it's fresh, he says, borei pri adama, it's going to be borei pri adama. So he says the same thing also applies if they spice it like that when it's dry, because now it becomes edible. So he says the main ingredient there is the ginger. So therefore it's going to be borei pri adama. So okay, so in other words, the Shulchan Aruch here seems to deviate from what he wrote in the Bit Yosef a little bit, because over there we just saw that it should be shakol if it's dry, but here apparently he says no, right? It's going to be borei pri adama, whether it's dry or whether it's fresh. So what are we talking about, right? We're talking about that it's right, again, it's they added some flavor to it. It's not just regular ginger. There's a word for this in English. I forget the word. When they like soak it in some spices, herbs, um, whatever they call that. Anyway, so he says that the reason why it's going to be bari piyadama, even if it's dry, is because those herbs, right, are going to make it edible. That's the thing. So therefore, it's gonna be upgraded to hadama instead of being shiakol, because usually dry ginger is shiakol, but here it gets upgraded into hadama because it became edible now. Okay, very interesting. It all, makes sense. It's like a certain pattern here, of logic. So once you got that pattern, you pretty much can figure things out. Okay, so let's go design. So it says over here that he brings over here the tour, the Ram, right? Rottenburg. So he says to this rabbi, "Nireh li im al besamim shechukim." So he says, it seems to me that regarding herbs which are pounded, let me go inside the tour and we'll see inside what it says there. Yeah, so it says, right, me'oravim biachad besukra. So they're also mixed with sugar, he says. Herbs mixed with sugar, pounded herbs mixed with sugar. So he says, what do we bless on that? Just like the ginger. Oh, there you go, right? So the thing is that here also it's like a pattern, right? Logic here, which is that you have something which is, generally not edible, and by adding the sugar, you made it edible. So now, right, the blessing gets upgraded to be hadama instead of being shiakol because of that. So this resembles the the case of the ginger that we just spoke about. Okay, great. So then he moves on. Tzenon mevarech ala borei pi adama. So then he talks about. Oh, I'm sorry. So we gotta do Beit Yosef and Shulchan Aruch before we go into that next one. Yeah. So it says here Beit Yosef Nireh Utzach Haram Milichtov Ken. So it says it seems like the Ram had to write this. Why? Mishum de lo dame lehumlata deshani hatam, because it's a little bit different than the ginger we just said. Techevam de aprihu mevushal bidvash. Why? Because since the fruit is cooked in honey, nireh shadvash lo ba sham ela leamida apri. So it seems like the honey is just coming to right to hold up the fruit. Kach to hold it together, something like that, to stick it together. Mevarech borei pi adama. So it's going to be borei pi adama, or borei pi etz or borei pi etz. Aval hacha, but here shebesamim enam mevushalim im sukar. Here, the difference is that these herbs are not cooked with the sugar. Hava amina the sukar ikar. So then I would say maybe the sugar is the main ingredient here. Borech shakol should be shakol. So it comes to tell you that no, it's hadama. Okay, so Yod Haya Efshar Lomar Humlata Shani. So it's possible to say that Humlata is different Shapri Shalem because it's complete. It's a full form, right? It's not chopped up. It's not right pounded. Aval Hacha Shabesamim Shechukim. But here, where the spices are pounded, right, all powdered or whatever. Hala Amina Shem Betalim. So I would think that they're nullified because of that. The Gabi Sukar, regarding the right in relation to the sugar. Umvarech Shakol. Therefore, you would do Shakol. Kamashmalan comes to teach you the Achanami Habesamim Hem Ikar. Comes to teach you, no, still, right? The spices, right? The herbs is the main ingredient here, not the sugar. So therefore, we bless on that. Meaning what? Hadama. אלא מה שמדברי רבנו בסימן Reish Daled, but he says, you know what? From the words of a tour in the next chapter, Reish Daled, mashma dehumlata nami besamim hem shechukim. It implies that even with the ginger, right? It's pounded. The spice, it's herb, is pounded up. It's not really like full. Okay, whatever. Anyway, it's all good. We can get by. We'll get by. So. Let's see Shulchan Aruch. So it says over here, "Besamim shechukim u'me'arimim u'sukar." As we said, right, you have pounded right, herbs which are mixed with sugar. So besamim ikar, the main ingredient there is the herbs and not the sugar. U'varech aleim kedin birkat otam besamim. So therefore, right, we bless the blessing of the herbs, which is hadama. Okay, that's that. So we'll go to Chet. So it says the Torah over here, Senon mivarchin ala borei pi adama. Right, the blessing for radishes is borei pi adama. Pashut beperek kitzad mivarchin. Right, where is this in Brachot Lamed Amud Aleph? Ve'ravu taka mashmalan. So what is it? What is it coming to teach you here? Now, what's the chidush? Shafa pi shesofo liakshot. That even though it's going to get hard in the end, kolmar sheimeno tolsho beito. So what does that mean? If he doesn't harvest it right at the right time, it gets hard. It's like wood. Nevertheless, nevertheless, it's going to be borei pi adama. Kedita begimara, like it says in Gemara. Okay, great. So that's the chidush over here when it comes to radishes, and that's the end of the chapter. So let's go to Shulchan Aruch. Let's see what happens. So it says Shulchan Aruch very short. Tzenon mevarech borei pi adama. Right. So radish is going to be borei pi adama. So again, right, what's the theory behind this? It's obvious. I mean, it grows in the ground, but the thing is that you may have thought, since it gets hard if you don't harvest it on time, if you don't pick it on time, so you may think that it's going to be a different blessing. What would you think? Maybe it's shakol. Right? So comes to tell you, no. There's no downgrade over here. No downgrade. Okay, great. That's it. So we'll go to the next chapter. Reish Daled. These chapters, they're very practical and very important and also quite interesting. So what can I tell you? It's a must read, as I say, Okay. So let's see what we got. So says the Tur, Kol davar she'en gidulo min haaretz kegon basar behema. Okay, so now, like we finished the fruits, right, vegetables and herbs, and now we're going into shehakol, right, which is things which don't grow from the ground at all. So says the Tur, whatever doesn't grow from the ground, kegon basar behema. So what are the examples, right? The classic stuff, right? meat, right? Off, right? Fowl, poultry, dagim, fish, right? Betzim, eggs, halav, milk, gvina, cheese, right? All that stuff. Mevarchin alav shehakol. Blessing is shakol. Okay, so let's stop there and go to Beit Yosef. So it says here, Beit Yosef, very short. The Perek Ketzav Mevarchin, Mishnah Baraita, right? It just brings you the source. Brachot Mem Amud Bet. Okay, so let's bring up the Shulchan Aruch. It's a new chapter. Got to bring it up. Reish Taled. Okay. Oh, yeah. So it says here in Shulchan Aruch, Al davar she'en gidulo min haaretz, something which doesn't grow from the ground. Kigon basar behema, right? For instance, the meat, chayav off, right? Then you have the right the poultry, dagim, fish, betzim, eggs, halav, milk, gvina, cheese, upat. Oh, another one, upat she'ipsha. Also, this is like old bread, stale bread, but it's like it's already like kind of like changed color, in bad shape, like bread in bad shape. So why does it have to be like that? Because that is already it's the form has changed already. So now we're gonna bless on it as if it was like something like shakol. So we're gonna do shakol on this. So why is that? Because it doesn't have the properties of bread anymore. It's too old already to have properties of bread. So let's go back to the tour for a second because he spoke about that. I want to cover that too. So it says pot shaped shot, right? Right? Yeah, you know what that's called? Moldy bread, right? I'm sorry. Sometimes my English falters, I have to tell you. But yeah, it's a moldy bread. That's what we're talking about. So regarding that, and also biyain shechamit, same thing. Also like sour wine, right? So it's kind of like sort of going towards the vinegar. It's not exactly vinegar, but it's getting there. Right. So it says, so what are we talking about here? That it's sour, but it smells like wine. There is a stage like that, when it ferments, it goes through that stage before it becomes like total vinegar. But tameh chala. So it smells like wine, but it tastes like vinegar. Wow. Shakol, that's gonna be shakol. אבל אם רכד chala, but on the other hand, right, just the opposite. If it smells like vinegar, v'tameh chamra, but it tastes like wine, chamra, that's called wine. Oh, okay. Very interesting. Okay, so let's see the Beit Yosef again. Not the Bet Yosef, I'm sorry, Shulchan Aruch. So again, right, getting back to what we said here, Shulchan Aruch, we're talking about moldy bread, and then we got the tafshil shenishtanat tzurato. Another thing is a dish that has already like its form has changed, altered, been altered. It's already like spoiled. It's a spoiled dish basically. ונובלות שהם תמרים שבשלם מוסרפם מחום ביבשו. And also you have these like overly ripened dates, which are dried out from the sun, whatever. ועל הגובעי, ועל המלח, uh, ועל מי מלח. So there's more types of stuff that he brings here, which are shakol. Besides the ones that we mentioned, first we have govai. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Then we'll figure it out. B'ezras Hashem. And then we have the salt, right? And also salt water. The al amarak. And also brine, like, soup, whatever. The al kemehin and pitrot. And also, as we said, right, mushrooms and truffles. The al korah, also korah, whatever that is. So anyway, the al luleve gifanim. So there's a lot of stuff here. I got to go back to the tour and continue because there's a lot more stuff. All types of foods. ואל תבשיל שנשתנה צורתו ונתקלקל ואל החומץ שערבו במים עד שראו לשתותו. So this is also vinegar which they mixed with water until it's already fitting to drink it. Shakol, it's going to be shakol. אבל אם הוא לבדו, but it's as if it's by itself, meaning what? The vinegar, אין מברכים לב. We don't bless it at all. שום מזיקה. Why? Because it's too bitter, right? It's too sour, whatever. So it's harmful. So then we have novlot, right, which is type of, as we said, dates, overly ripened, hard. Alaylan ve'ala govai. So then we have the ilan, right, which is the tree. I guess talking about tree bark. Ve'ala govai and also govai, whatever that is. We'll see what that is. Could be that it's locusts, grasshoppers. Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. Locusts. Because, some of them are kosher, right? You guys know that, right? There are certain species that are kosher.
Only in Israel, correct?
No, actually, it's not only in Israel. It just has to do with the species, there are certain species that are kosher. So there are some communities that have a masoret, tradition about this. So those communities do eat them, but the rest of us do not eat them because we don't have a masoret. We don't have a tradition about it. What does that mean, tradition? There's, we know that they're allowed. That's not the issue. The issue is which type, is allowed or not. So it says in Rashi, right, and also in the Halacha, it's brought down that it has to be that it's called, a locust. It doesn't have a different name. So the thing is that Rashi says we don't have a tradition about that. Which one is called locust and which one is not. So he says, therefore, we cannot eat it. But there are communities that have a tradition, like the Yemenites, for instance, right? So the Yemenites used to eat them. So whoever does have a tradition in that country that he lived in, he was able to eat that. If he didn't have a tradition, he cannot eat that. Yeah, so nowadays the truth is, we don't eat them because we don't have a tradition. And even in places where they had a tradition, they've already like moved out of there, so they moved to different places. And those places, their custom is not to eat them, So therefore, today it's like very rare. I've never seen anybody who eats this stuff. That's the way it is. What can I tell you? Anyway, right. So now we got that, right? That's locusts. Ve'ala melach ve'ala zomit. Right. So we're talking about salt, and salt water. Shakol. It's going to be shakol. All these things. So, all right, he brings here a definition for that. Right, zomit. What is it? Right. I'm sorry, not the zomit. Right. There's another definition of zomit. Rabbi Gaon says zomit means it's like the froth that comes up when the something is being cooked, a dish. And also we said, right, mushrooms and truffles. Right, and then he goes on. So let's go on. There's more. There's more types. So now he talks about this. He says, something called korah, right? So what is that? So he says it's something which grows on the branches of the palm tree, right? So it's like a bark, right? A dekel. Uveshana rishona hu rach. So he says the first year it's soft, but it's edible. Oh. Then it gets hard, it's like wood, right? So what do we bless on that? We bless shakol on that. Because why? Because it's bark, right? It's not really a fruit. So we mentioned that yesterday. So same thing applies here as well. So he says because when people plant this palm tree, they don't plant it to eat that stuff. It's not the purpose of it. They want the dates, right? That's what we really want, and therefore that's why it's shakol. So therefore it's not called a fruit. Anything like that, it says כגון לולבי גפנים ושקדים שאוכלים אותם כשהן. So it says the same thing applies to something which comes from the grapevines, shoots or something like that, whatever, God knows. Ushkadim, and also the almonds, שאוכלים אותם כשהן, they eat them when they're rakim, when they're soft, בקליפיהן, in the shell. כיוון שלא נט אלו אינשי הדת לאחי, since people don't plant the tree because of these things, במרכין עליו shekels, therefore blessings and shekels on these things. Okay. So there's a ton of stuff over here. Let's go back to Shulchan Aruch, see if we can now finish it off. We covered everything here. So regarding this thing that grows on the vines, I'm just looking at the Mishnah board to see what he says. Not really much. Okay, so anyway, so says the Ramah here, Waracha nitosab beilan, right? So that's the stuff that we just said, right? That grows into tree bark, that grows on the palm trees. Veim lulave b'gefanim, and also, right, we have the lulave gefanim, which are something which grows on the vine, shoots, whatever they call them. Ve'al shkedim metukim, so it says also sweet almonds. Sheochlim otam kishem rakim. They eat them when they're soft, right? Beklipen, and they're inside their shell. Ve'al haziz, ve'hu shachat, right? Also shachat, right? So what is that? It's some kind of an herb or something. Okay, so Mishnah Berurah explains it like this. He says, this is grains which have not grown one third. So like they're underdeveloped grains. Okay, interesting. So even though they grow from the ground, we bless them that shakol. What's the reason for that? Because since they're so underdeveloped, they haven't even grown one third yet. So probably the taste is not really it's not exactly primo taste there going on. Pretty substandard taste. Okay, what else we got? Ve'al karachaya, also the raw pumpkin. Ve'al kimcha desare, also uh, barley flour. Okay. Ve'al shechar tamarim, and also beer, which is made out of dates, date beer, date liquor, whatever they call that stuff. Ve'shechar seurim, and also the liquor that is made from barley liquor. Wow. Ve'al me seurim shemashtim lechole. Also, we have it's like some kind of a barley solution that they make for sick people. Ve'al isbed de davra shenem nizraim. These are, he says, grass that grows in the forest and they're not planted. Ve'al Shabbat shekorin anito. Oh, okay. Anis. And so this is some kind of a spice. And they call it spice Shabbat. Hmm. This may be dill. Ve'al kamon v'kusba, right? Also, cumin, right? And also cilantro. So what do all these things have in common, right? They're made to be spices. So in other words, we don't eat them like raw, we eat them, we use them as spice.
Anise is a spice, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
Anise, are you talking about anise?
I think anise is dill, no? Or am I wrong?
Well, anise is a type of spice, like star anise.
Yeah, the star
Okay.
anise.
It has like a licorice taste to it.
I see. Okay, I don't know. What do I know, guys? I don't know. I'm a total amateur, but I'll let you guys decide what it is.
We'll help you with your culinary education.
Thank you very much. But you have to give me a degree at the end. I'm sorry. Otherwise, I don't. Okay. Got to get something out of it in the end. You know what I mean? Got to have something to show them. Piece of paper. Okay. So anyway. Okay. So anyway, right? That's the story there. Okay. So all these things which are meant to be spices and not to be eaten, right? As we said, right? Cumin, right? Cilantro, so all these things, and also chometz shirvu b'mayim, and also vinegar, like diluted vinegar. The stuff we buy at the store, that's diluted. Ad sherawi lishtot bevarech. As long as it's fitting to drink it, right? You can do shakol with that. Okay, interesting. So all these things are shehakol. So you would think, right, that these things are hadama, right? These spices, right? Because they grow on the ground. But no, right? It's something like inferior there. Why? Because we don't eat them as is. We use them as a spice. They're not really so edible as is.
So what will be is it Haetz or since it's not Hadam?
Everything we mentioned here is going to be shakol.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, but we don't eat them, like that. These things, right? We use them as spices.
So what would be the difference between cinnamon and this? The sort of
Okay. Yes, 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 yes. So you know what the difference is? Very simple. Cinnamon is edible, It's not only a spice. You can eat it as is. As opposed to these things, right, which are not eaten as is. That's the difference. So therefore, cinnamon is going to be hadama, and this is going to be shehakol because it's even more inferior.
Hmm,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. There's a lot of interesting theory behind these blessings. All right. So I guess move on. Yeah, we got 5 minutes, so we can get something done. So we'll go to bed.
It doesn't convince me because I mean you cannot chew on a bark of a tree just to chew it and eat it. And to me, it seems very similar to star of anise. You know, it doesn't convince me why the difference, but there's a reason there. I shouldn't
But
doubt.
difference between what? Let's just
Well, the cinnamon and the star of anise is
right. Yeah, cinnamon is edible. That's what we said yesterday.
the bark of a tree to chew it, because you can do the same thing with the star of anise. You can chew it and get
Oh boy.
the
Well, you know better than me. I don't know nothing about these things, but I'm just telling you what it said.
okay.
Okay. The rest is up to you to investigate. I don't know.
Okay, sounds good.
But the truth is, seriously, I understand it because, cinnamon is definitely edible. Everybody knows that, right?
I think wasn't the difference that like not that people usually do it, but it has been in the case in the past where people would like chew on cinnamon bark just as a
Yeah,
food.
yeah, it's edible. In other words, it's not so bitter, it's got some sweetness to it, right?
We're talking about raw, like raw cinnamon. But star
Yeah, I
anise,
mean, the truth is, I've never eaten raw cinnamon,
not,
but
not too many people do anymore, but it has been a thing in the past. People used to chew on it like
right, 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 right. In the
star
good
anise.
old days,
I have never
good
known
old
star
days.
anise to be anything but something you would cook use in a dish.
Right, I got you, I got you. Anyway, cinnamon is definitely much more mild than some other spices. Definitely on the sweeter side. It also smells great, as you know. I don't have to tell you that. Okay, so whatever. So, okay, you guys, argue it out. I don't know. I'm gonna stay out of it. I'm a minor leaguer, when it comes to these things.
I'm
So,
thinking the person that wrote this, they were not in the kitchen. So I'm
I'm sorry,
thinking
what was that again?
the person that wrote this, they were not in the kitchen.
Yeah, but but you can't really say that, because what do you call it? This was written by the Chachamim, So they knew their stuff, these people. They knew their stuff. You know what it is? You may find it different. I'll tell you another thing, which is that sometimes, the properties of these things do change over time. So whatever it was 2,000 years ago may not be, the same thing today.
I see. It's
You know what I mean? So if you find it to be different than what they say, it could be because of several factors. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of factors that come in.
yeah, they had more experience with those before than us, probably.
And
They
also, there's another thing, which is that some of these species are sometimes altered by grafting and all kinds of mixtures and God knows what. So you never know. Like it's very hard to figure these things out. 100%. But we do the best we can. With the information that we have. You know what I mean? But yeah, these rabbis, they knew their stuff. Believe me, they knew that's what they were talking about. They had also Ruach HaKodesh, they had divine inspiration, so they were on the ball. Just like I posted today, right, in one of my posts, that there's this famous saying, in the Talmud that the Chacham is greater than a prophet, than a Navi. So the Zohar explains the reason we say that is because the Navi, the prophet, right, he just gets information from God, but he's not doesn't have the permission to alter anything. He has to say it as is, as given over. But the Chacham is superior. Why? Because he can use his mind to alter the information. Because of his wisdom. His Torah wisdom. So, it says in the Zohar something amazing, right? That when we say that Moshe Rabbeinu, right, Hashem told him, "You can't see my front, right? You can only see my back of my head, not the front." So, right, says the Zohar, but a Chacham, right, who was able to make chidushim, to alter these things, he's looking in the face of Hashem, even better than the Navi, right? Who's looking in the back of the face. Right? So so what you see from there, right, that the ultimate wisdom is the wisdom of the Torah. Whoever has the wisdom of the Torah is the best. He's better than a prophet. So you see from there, right?
correct. Yes.
By the way, just by the way, right? I tell you, right, that these Chachamim, they were able to bring, the dead to life. That's how wise they were. They were able to resurrect the dead. So they knew something. You know what I mean?
CPR. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not doubting. I'm
they
just saying,
they resurrected. Not only that, by the way, like what you and me, right? What do we do? If we don't have meat for Shabbat, we go buy it, right? We order it, right? Whatever, we buy it, right? These guys, when they didn't have meat for Shabbat, they were able to create it, by saying some things with their mouth. They could bring some meat down from heaven. So they were pretty good. These guys, they know a couple of things that we don't know. Okay, God bless you. Okay, so thanks for coming. Shabbat Shalom. Be blessed with wealth and health and happiness. Laila Tov, Chazak Baruch. We'll see you, Bezrat Hashem, next week, Sunday. God bless. Shabbat Shalom. Enjoy your Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom.
Make sure you put the spices in the cholent.
Kavod Harav, thank you so much.
God bless.